Before we start the video, I just want to remind you all that Anthony's son is currently undergoing chemotherapy and he could really use your help. So please, if you have anything you can donate, please donate. You can find the link into the GoFundMe in the description below. Thank you so much and enjoy the video. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Simply Nerdy. I am your host, Steven. I am joined today by the one and only...
I'm waiting for you to say it. Anthony, hi.
Antonio!
It's psyching me out.
And today we are talking about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. We're going to deep dive into Breath of the Wild because Breath of the Wild 2 is being developed right now, and there's a lot of speculation of what the game's going to look like. So we want to just go back and admire what we loved about the first game, and then transition into what we hope Breath of the Wild 2 will look like. So, Anthony, do you want to start us off with what made Breath of the Wild so special to you? And I'll probably just nod and say yes.
Dude. You can't leave this to me. You know you like it as much as I do.
Yes, I have over 450 hours playing the game.
Nice. But yeah, I'll be glad to start. So, what made Breath of the Wild so special to me? Well, aside from being a longtime Zelda fan and always being excited by any mainline Zelda game that comes out, so that was already kind of a big deal for me that, wow, this is another Zelda. The thing that really struck me right off the bat, though, was just how immersive this world that they crafted in Breath of the Wild turned out to be. So I got it midnight, opening night, of course. I remember just playing into the wee hours in the morning, not being able to stop because, I was just enraptured by this world and how much they managed to kind of really make you feel like you were inside of it. It was magical for me, there are several reasons why I feel like they did, why that worked so well. I think one of the biggest for me was how they did the audio design. So maybe that's something I'll start with. I'll start off with the audio design. I feel like that is what really captured the world and made me feel like I was inside of it. Is the music, sure, in this game it's very minimalistic, and I think a lot of people have been very critical of the game because of that, because Zelda games tend to have their sweeping scores and they're known for their compositions, and so I think a lot of people were kind of let down that it wasn't quite the same. But for me, the understated nature of the music actually allowed me to really kind of focus on the world rather than feel like the music was taking over. And so, instead you just, as you're exploring this brand new world that's bigger than it has ever been before, in a Zelda game, you just have, the sound of your footsteps and the chirping of birds, to accompany you as you go along, and it makes you feel like you're there. So, that sucked me right in, and, I couldn't put it down for hours. I eventually did go to bed, but I was back up a short time later, and it was at it again. So I guess that's a natural segue into my next point. And you stop me when you want to interject.
You just keep going, Ant. I'll interject once your thoughts are done.
Well, we'll see about that.
His thoughts are never going to be done.
And
Well, I'll interject here for just 2 seconds then.
Okay.
Because I'm actually playing the game right now while we were recording, and I love how this game opens because the Legend of Zelda games are famously known for their super long introductions and tutorials. And
looking at you, Twilight Princess. Oof.
Yep, Twilight Princess was the worst offender for sure. But that was literally the opening, and now it opens up to this, like Anthony said, ginormous world full of chirping birds and wildlife that really makes you feel like you're actually there, and it's just so magical. And you can literally go anywhere in those mountains without any loading screens, and it's crazy. Okay, yeah, that's all I wanted to say for now.
So I think the next point, and I think this for me was the biggest, the most important deal for me with this game, and I feel like there's a lot of people out there who agree, is that the exploration of this world is something that is just a constant joy. Like they don't tell you to where you have to go. Well, okay, sometimes they give you indications, okay, go here to further the story, but nothing forces you to do so. And you can literally just freely roam wherever the heck you want and climb anywhere. Like there's basically nothing that can stop you from going where you want to go. I think perhaps the most triumphant element of the exploration in this game is that there's always something interesting to find in every corner, in every nook and cranny. Sometimes under rocks you can pick up. They just made it such a joy to explore because there's always something interesting to find. And I feel like in a lot of open world games I've played, the worlds look fantastic. Certainly there are games that visually look better than Breath of the Wild, from like a sheer performance resolution standpoint. But a lot of the time I feel like, you see something that looks like a point of interest and you go over there and it really is just for the view. It's just something to see. But I feel like in Breath of the Wild, you look off in the distance and you see something that looks interesting or important. You go there and the game almost invariably rewards you with something to find there. And it kind of creates this constant sense of reward for exploring. In addition to the majestic views you get to see, then each and every place that you visit has something to reward you for going there. And it doesn't sound like it's a very big deal when you put it that way, but I feel like what made this world with its sweeping vistas, and its wide open spaces, which could have resulted in it feeling empty.
Yep.
Instead, it feels full of life because, there's
so much to do, so many hidden things you can discover, and so many little rewards for exploring.
I think that's ultimately the thing that was the most wondrous to me was just how rewarding it was to explore in this world. Another thing that I thought was a really big deal, this might seem like kind of a side note, but something that I really loved is I also loved how much detail they put into the world map. And what I mean, I actually mean like the map that you bring up when you press the minus button.
Not anything impressive right now.
No, there's not much to see at the moment. But once you download the map data, you can zoom in a bunch of times and it will keep on introducing more detail at every level of zoom. It shows the topography, like there's actually, it's a topographic map, so you can see elevations and things like that. But some of the coolest things are that you can actually discover interesting places to go just by zooming in close enough on your map that you can see something printed on there that looks interesting. Like, for example, a lot of the Korok puzzles in this game, there's like a circle of rocks and you have to find the missing rock and put it in the missing spot, and then you get a Korok seed for it. Sometimes, if you zoom in close enough, you'll actually see the circle of rocks printed on the map. You can realize, oh, there's a Korok there, and you can mark it and go there. And like, there's just things like that all over the place where, there's details on the map that you can use to realize, oh, this looks like something really interesting. You go there and then almost invariably you find something cool and interesting that way too. So I feel like maybe the way I'm trying to sum this up is that this game is just packed with detail in almost every aspect of how it was made, including the map, and that results in almost nothing feeling like it was just an afterthought.
They put so much detail and so much thought, like you said, in everything. They put tons of details in the enemies too. The enemies have more personality than I think they've ever had in a Zelda game.
Uh-huh.
And they react to what you do. They react to others being taken down. When you take their weapons, they react and say, "Whoa, you took my weapon!" And then they freak out. Other times, there won't be a weapon, and the enemies will just kind of grab each other and toss each other at you. or find a rock to throw at you or something. And it's just so fun to watch. This game just does a really good job of making the world feel alive. To the horses, to the main characters, to people around you. If it starts raining, people will run under and find cover, and they'll say a little dialogue without having to talk to them. They'll just have a little dialogue over their head, like, "It's raining, get out of the way," or something.
I confess I'm distracted by your battle, Stephen.
Oh, yeah. I don't have to do too much.
All right. Okay. That makes me think of another thing to say. So another thing that I feel like is deceptively simple in this game is the combat system. There's not necessarily in terms of the individual basic abilities that you have that are very complex. You press Y to swing your weapon. You can dodge with X. There's not necessarily a ton to it, but just like there is so much room for experimentation with, say, the runes. I mean, for those of you who have maybe watched some of the experts play this game, they've come up with so many incredibly clever things that you can do with this game's physics engine. The way you can use stasis as a way to travel super fast, and so many other things. It turns out that there's an equal amount of experimentation in the combat system, and there's some people out there who have really, really pushed this game to its limits. Like you can literally be a person who just presses the Y button to finish off enemies, or you can go full Devil May Cry on an enemy if you actually know what's going on. I don't know. I just love that. I'm not actually very good at the combat myself, but I've watched some videos, and actually there's one guy in particular who's really skilled. He calls himself Rin Harasaki, I think. You should look up his channel, because one thing he's started to do recently is actually explain how to do these complex combat mechanics. And I'm actually super excited, because I wanted to learn this stuff for a super long time, because I want to get that good at the combat in this game. But I've never felt like I knew how, because the strategies are so exacting and nuanced. But he actually has started to do some videos to break it down, and I'm really excited. There's some crazy stuff, and maybe that's another one of those things that really makes this game a masterpiece. Most games, I feel like they have to set their mechanics in stone, and that's all you can do, and there's not much more to it. But in this game, there's such a wide spectrum of things you can do. You can literally just use the runes, for example, exactly as they're introduced to you, or you can learn to do all sorts of crazy things with them, and it's all down to experimentation and creativity.
That's actually something I wanted to say about the runes too, is I love how in traditional Zelda games, you are given the tools as you play the game. You're given all these different items as you complete dungeons and so forth. In this game, they give you all of the tools you need at the very beginning of the game. And then you can just play and experiment with the tools in different ways. There's so many ways, like Anthony said, to use the runes. But I love having everything I need right from the get-go. It was such a different experience. It was revolutionary.
I have to confess that there's a part of me that was actually a little saddened by that, and let me defend that here. So,
those fighting words, Anth.
Sure. So, as a Metroid fan, one thing that I feel like makes those games so special is the sense of progression that you get with each new item. And so, the idea that you have everything you need from the get-go and there's not necessarily more special abilities to look forward to was something that initially disappointed me. Now, obviously, since, I've made it clear that this is still my favorite game ever made, that wasn't enough to ruin the game at all for me. And I feel like, perhaps the real progression is learning how to use your abilities in clever ways, like we were just talking about. One thing, and maybe this is me kind of jumping the gun on our next discussion just a little bit. But what I would love to see in the sequel is a little bit more of the mix of Breath of the Wild's approach with A Link Between Worlds' approach, where you aren't given all the weapons and items right off the bat, but you can obtain them, and they're still important for use in puzzle solving, things like that. If we could get a mix of those, then I would love that. But otherwise, I guess I'm being a little bit of a heretic here in light of what you just said. But
it's okay. I'll forgive you the next time. Another thing I really love about the game is you can, like Anthony was talking about earlier, you can literally accomplish anything in any order that you want. You can decide to go and face Ganon, the enemy of the game, the main villain, right at the very beginning of the game if you want. Hop out and try to take him down. Good luck, but people have done it. And it's crazy to think that people can do it with just sticks and clubs and whatever else they find on their way up from Ganon's sky. I don't know if they even collect quirks. I mean, I don't even know how they do it. But you can just go after the final boss and beat him and be done. Or you can bask in the glory of Hyrule and explore and do whatever divine beast in whatever order you want. So we obviously deemed this game a masterpiece, right, Anthony?
Absolutely.
All right, so tune into our next episode to hear what we think about Breath of the Wild 2 and our hopes for that game. Until next time, guys.
Keep it nerdy.